Welcome in everyone to Draft Pro Hockey, and this is another episode, our third episode, and today we're joined by Jonny Lazarus from Daily Faceoff and Morning Cup of Hockey. And Johnny, how's it going today on a Tuesday?
It's good, fellas. Really happy that you guys are doing this. Two great voices in the game, and honestly, two guys that I lean on heavily when I'm looking at prospect information. So I hope you don't ask me about things that you know better than I do, but I'm excited to be here.
That's good. That's good. Let's start with like the USHL quickly and just kind of go through that. Tynan Lawrence is one of the top prospects out of the USHL, obviously for this year. You've had the chance to call a few of his games last season, I do believe it was. What can you kind of just say about Tynan and his game?
Yeah, he's a full, full package player. He's got speed, skill. He's tough. Doesn't shy away from physicality. His shot is probably one thing that I haven't seen much of. Like, he's not much of a shooter per se, but the way that Tynan gets up the ice with the puck too. Like, there are some guys that are really fast north south, but there are so rare or a lack of guys who are even faster when they have the puck. And like Tynan is a guy, when the puck's on his stick, he actually seems even faster than he is without it. That's a special talent to have. Like, I'm one to typically exaggerate when I get excited. And I did say in the Clark Cup final last year that Tynan Lawrence is like the closest thing to McDavid that the USHL has. Probably a bit of a stretch of a statement, but like, that's what he looks like when you watch him in that league. I'm not saying like that's what he'd look like in the NHL, but against his peers, like he stands out. Like when you watch a USHL game and you watch Muskegon, I know he hasn't played a lot this year. I think only 2 games. You can just tell like that kid's different, right? So curious to see what happens this year with his injury and when he comes back, when he returns, if he plays in the World Junior. I think those things are all kind of questions right now that everyone has. But he was the Clark Cup MVP for a reason. He's that good, and any NHL team that picks him up in this coming draft is gonna be lucky to have him.
I talked to Muskegon Lumberjacks head coach Colton St. Clair, and he actually said that the player comp that he has for Tynan Lawrence is Macklin Celebrini, and just like the guy that can defend number 1 centers in the entire league, and just like I know he has only played a couple games this season, but he actually was the best player on the Clark Cup defending champions last year. And there was a guy named Vaslav Nestrasil that you got to call a couple of their games this year. So can you tell me a little bit about what you've seen from him and kind of what kind of prospect he is?
Yeah, Vaslav's a guy who's dangerous in all 3 zones. I think one thing, again, still a freshman. College hockey is not the easiest. I think still waiting to see him take over a game. Like he has his moments where there's been plenty of games where like there's one period he's got like 3 2-on-1s, a breakaway chance he's creating. But I feel like maybe this weekend is a little recency bias. UMass struggled offensively a little bit against BC. He was a little bit quieter. They're the quietest games I've seen him play, but the team struggled a little bit as a whole. So I'm not going to like put blame on one guy. But for Vaslav, it's like being that game breaker and taking over. I think Coach Carvel has said it, like he has the capabilities and they love what they've seen in him late in a game too. When UMass is protecting a lead, they have Vaslav Nestrasil out there to help them win a game, right? Like his stick is very active. He's got a long reach. He's 6'6" and he moves incredibly well and very smooth for a guy 6'6". He always makes this like one play that like looks, I guess he makes it look easier than it actually is. I've seen him like maybe 3 or 4 times this season get the puck in the neutral zone, but like have it on his like toe and pull it through his legs to change direction and go the other way to like try to burn by a defender. And it's something that I haven't seen like many other players do as consistently as Vaslav. And that's not something that like, is like a make or break part of his game, but you see the skill that he has at such a young age. And watching him starting to put it all together in college hockey has been a lot of fun to watch. And, the Blackhawks, again, like they knocked it out of the park with their draft picks last year.
Yeah, Vaslav actually made a similar move on Anton Frandel when they were both 9 years old, and then he went through the legs for the goal there. So Vaslav,
is there a video of that?
Tweeted that? Yeah, there's a video.
Really?
Yeah, we should put that on here. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. He made him fall on his back, and they were laughing about it at Dev Camp when they were talking. But yeah, pretty impressive. He's very skilled. 6'6", I believe now.
Yep.
And the Blackhawks drafted another 6'6" in a quarter now player, Mason West, who just threw 5 touchdowns and is going to be playing in the Minnesota high school football state championship. So you got to talk to him at the draft. Can you talk about him, his personality a little bit, and what you see in his game?
Yeah, I actually followed him around. Luckily, the USHL allowed me to like go through all the, I guess the media car wash is what you'd call it. After he was picked, and I had so much fun with him. Like in the morning, he was throwing footballs to me. I was running routes like on the street in Los Angeles, and we had a lot of fun with that little like feature that we did. But he's just such a wholesome like family kid. He had at least 20, maybe 25 people at the draft with him. Like his dad was also massive. Pretty sure his dad was, I forgot the school, but his dad was roommates with Sean Payton in college. So football has like always been a part of Mason West. And obviously having a dual sport athlete, like, I think that's really important for today's athletes, right? Like parents now are a little more strict about having their kid play one sport, and like, instead of being a jack of all trades, you try to master one sport. And I always find that the players who have different perspectives because of other sports they've played, whether it's like basketball, football, baseball. It's always fun to like see how they translate those things into hockey, right? And I think Mason West, obviously being a quarterback, like you have to think that helps his hockey IQ with the way he sees things and is kind of one step ahead of a play or routes. Like it's, knowing where a puck's going to go, where a player's going to go because of his football instincts, right? I think that's something that I'm personally excited to see, when he steps foot into the NHL. But yeah, he's a really sweet kid, wholesome, funny, a guy that I think will be a media darling once he steps foot. And even before, he's already becoming that, and he hasn't even played a single shift this year. So I think everyone should be excited about what Mason West can do.
When he was throwing you the football, what was going through your mind? Like, I have to catch this, or
not even that, man. Like I am not a football guy. Like I don't even really watch football. Like I'm like the worst guy ever, honestly. Like I don't golf, I don't play fantasy football. Like I'm like the worst guy. But the passes he was throwing, like those are fucking. I don't know if I can curse. I'm sorry. Those were hard passes.
No, you're
like,
good.
My hands were actually like hurting. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've had a catch with my dad, and like I played flag football as a kid, but I've never been thrown a pass from like a legit football player like that. And I was like, dude, you're gonna rip my chest in half. But yeah, that just goes to tell you how strong the kid is too.
You kind of talked about like him being a quarterback in that vision, right? So like, do you see him being like a quarterback for a power play in like the USHL and NHL, so he can kind of like drive that type of thing just with his vision?
Kind of hard to say if I could see him like being, because he's a forward, and like you don't typically see forwards quarterback a power play. I mean, I've seen it before. Like we've seen power play units that have 5 forwards. Like, I think the Leafs have done it this year. I know UMass did it last year with 5 forwards. They had Kenny Connors running the point for the power play as a forward, LA Kings draft pick. So it's not like so uncommon. I mean, it'd be fun to try, but obviously Chicago's got 2 guys pretty capable, I think, right now, on Loshinov and Renzel when he's able to do it. So if he does become the power play quarterback for the Blackhawks, I think there'd be a massive problem. But I guess that's a story for a different day.
Yeah, 100%.
like even a guy like Korchinski can also be that power play quarterback too. I mean, just the elite skill that he has, and he's actually showing it in the AHL. I think he had 8 points in 9 games, so he has been showing it. And Anders Lee, actually the captain of the Islanders for a little while, he was actually a football player as well. And Mason West talked about him during the draft, and he talked about a player that he modeled his game after, which is Tage Thompson, who after he's playing center now, he's looking very elite again. So just another player that kind of shows you kind of the potential he has at 6'6" and a quarter. But yeah, I know, Colton, you wanted to talk about Rudy as well, right? From Muskegon Lumberjacks.
Bergeron?
Yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce that last name, but yeah, I don't talk about him a little bit. If you have any insight on him and just kind of what he brings to the Lumberjacks and etc.
Yeah, I think for him, it's size, it's hands, it's shot. I think he's got all the tools, right? I don't know his exact like height off the top of my head, but bigger boy, left-handed shot. I think learning again, like these international guys, from talking to college coaches, a lot of the adjustments are learning how to play away from the puck. So I think, that's something that Rudy Bergeron probably has to learn a little bit as he continues to grow here. But like the offensive instincts and awareness are there. So I think he's able to score in tight areas. He uses his body to, again, like take away eyes of goaltenders. And for a big guy, he does move very well. So He has all those like things that you can't really teach, but I think as he continues to progress and, grow his game a little bit, just gaining more knowledge of playing away from the puck, the defensive zone, like those are the things that probably need the biggest adjustments. But again, like when you watch him play, like his size, hands, shot, all that stuff is there and stands out.
One more player on Muskegon, Jack Christ or Christ, however you pronounce that one.
Christ.
What do you kind of make of him?
He's a game. I mean, he's as clutch as it gets. Like, kid had a hat trick in Game 5 of the Clark Cup final. He scored so many big goals already this year. He's got hands that are like soft as butter. His confidence, I guess, or even like the word aura, like really stands out. Like this kid is full of swagger. Has a decent shot too. Had a couple snipes last year in the Clark Cup final. He's a good passer, very smooth. I don't know like what his comparison would be, to be honest. Like now that I think about it, I don't know what NHL player I would think to compare him to. I don't know if you guys have seen something or read something or even made your own judgments on him, but yeah, he's a fun player to watch just because at any moment he could impact a game. He's not one to shy away from the big moments.
Yeah, I saw him at the Fall Classic, and he was obviously he had to be the best player on the team.
Yeah,
because
is he a Mankato commit again? I'm blanking on where he's committed. I think it's Mankato, Minnesota State.
I actually don't know.
So. I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But is there a player that you've watched this year that kind of just like shocked you a little bit and was like, wow, this guy's a gamer?
Like in any league?
Yeah.
You know what? I'll say Dean Letourneau. I watched him this weekend, and obviously last year I think a lot of the narratives or opinions around Letourneau was like, Bruins fans saying, why do we pick this kid in the first round? Like 3 assists in 29 games. But he's really grown into his own. Like we talked about Tage Thompson a second ago, and Letourneau, he was asked by Natalie Norrie, the ringside reporter for NESN, like about Tage Thompson. He wears 29. That's what Tage wore in college. And, I think a big part of these bigger, I wouldn't know because I'm 5'11" on a good day, probably 5'10". I think Elite Prospects was kind enough to give me that 6 foot, but it takes time for these guys to grow into their body, right? Like think about when you're growing and how your game changes from like 14 to 16, when you really like start to gain muscle and you start to, become a little bit more of a man, even though you're not necessarily a man at 16. But that's what happens with a guy who's as big as Dean Letourneau, right? Like he's grown into himself a little bit. He's finding his strength. I think having the off season to train a little bit after his freshman year was big for him. And now he's gained that confidence. He's showing skill. He's using his body. He made one incredible play this weekend on Owen Murray, the captain of UMass, who's 5'10", and Dean's again 6'7", where Dean like used his body to protect the puck. Murray couldn't even get a stick on Letourneau's stick. And Letourneau, I forgot who I think it might have been Sandro scored the goal, but Letourneau goes around the net, feeds the guy back door for a tap in. And just because his body, he was all over the ice this weekend. And again, like he's a guy who I think a lot of people were critical of because his freshman year was very quiet, but he's already surpassed, I think, like 10 plus points for Boston College. And he was the most impressive player on the ice, I thought, all weekend for BC.
And you're a Rangers fan, and I know.
Sorry, I just dropped something.
No, I don't care. So Erie Otters actually, they had Matthew Schaefer, they had Malcolm Spence, and both of them went to both New York teams. And obviously Matthew Schaefer has been incredible. But have you seen Malcolm Spence play and just kind of like that? They were best friends back in Erie.
I haven't gotten to see Malcolm Spence play a ton. Michigan's a team that I keep hearing is like loaded and a lot of fun to watch, but full transparency, like most of my time is spent watching Hockey East. I got to see Gavin McKenna play a little bit when those games were on TV, but I've been working like the last like 4 or 5 weekends, so I haven't been able to like tune into Michigan, which is, that's the only shitty thing about working the games on Friday, Saturday nights. Like, yeah, I get to focus and be up close to the games that I'm working, but I kind of miss what happens around the league. And yeah, I've seen like highlights and stuff, but I can't really speak firsthand to how Malcolm Spence has looked. I mean, I saw that penalty box clip of him yapping. That was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, I've from everything I've heard, Michigan is like the real deal. I think Michigan State right now, I've seen a little bit of them when they played BU. They're for sure, without a doubt, the number one team in the country. Colby has been very vocal about like the only team that can beat Michigan State is Michigan State. But when I have the chance to watch Michigan, I will certainly tune in, hopefully in the next coming weeks here. once my schedule slows down, I got I got 2 games this weekend. I think Thanksgiving weekend I might have off. So maybe I can catch some games Thanksgiving weekend.
And like in your career, when did things like really start ramping up? Because like you have your show with Colby Cohen, who
Yeah.
did incredible work for the Blackhawks media and stuff. But like, when did you start really realizing like this is what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah, for the rest of my life. I kind of knew. I always wanted. I couldn't have drawn up what I'm doing now. I didn't know like what freelancing was, honestly. So what I'm doing now, again, like I could never have dreamt of. But like my sophomore year, junior year of college, I knew I wanted to do media, and just from being a hockey fan and consuming it, like this is 2019, where think about how different the world was in 2019, right? Like you're not seeing nearly as many podcasts, nearly as many clips. Content wasn't even like a word that I'd ever heard of, and my teammates and like guys that I knew, we were always watching hockey, and like a lot of the shows you'd watch were kind of reruns. There wasn't like live YouTube shows, wasn't live things that you can interact with. There was, sports talk radio and stuff like that. But I grew up in New York, and I would turn on ESPN and it'd be Get Up and First Take, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, Greenberg, like those kind of things. And they'd never really talk hockey. And all I wanted to do was like be a young voice in the game, where at the time the game was only like really older people talking about hockey. And, I figured, sure, I'm a kid who played Division I. I didn't play like, in the NHL. I didn't play pro, but like I played a high enough level where I could at least talk the game and continue to learn the game and communicate the game to people who maybe don't know as much. So I kind of just like took advantage in COVID of all the free time I had, and I learned how to make clips. I learned how to edit. I studied like podcasting. I studied interviewing, and, really gave all my energy into it. And, I was still working a full-time job up until the summer of 2023, but I got a really cool opportunity to work the Stanley Cup Central live show with the NHL on their YouTube channel. And that was when like things really started to turn for me. So after I covered the Florida Vegas Cup final, I decided to quit my full-time job and like really just kind of learn about the industry and try to attack it full time, because I said to myself, if I don't go all in now, like I never will, and I'll never be able to reach my full potential. And that was hard. Like, I took a massive pay cut. Like I was kind of living paycheck to paycheck and always looking for the next opportunity. But for me, I just felt like I had to do it. And, obviously, as you guys know, like once you put yourself out there, it's kind of like inevitable, right? And I think the only way you fail is if you stop. Like you never know what doors you open, right? So, and anyone who's looking to like start a podcast or start talking, like it's also a reason to reach out to people. If you just like cold email or cold LinkedIn message someone and say, hey, would you love to come on my show? Like I would think with how nice people in hockey are, they're going to say yes more often than they say no. And you'll get no's, but one yes you get could change everything for you. It could open another relationship. It could create so many opportunities. And I think for me, just like genuinely loving doing it too. And I know how much you guys love it, right? Like making a clip, putting it out, seeing people react to it. Like that's fun. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it is, like I'll never forget like the first time like people started like retweeting clips that I was posting. I was like, wow, like they agree with me. Like,
Yep.
Like that's a good feeling as a young kid who just you just love hockey, like all three of us. So I don't even know if I answered the question fully, but yeah, that's all I got.
Well, it's an inspirational story, that's for sure.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And I admire everything you're doing too. Seriously.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Like that was awesome story. Like that's everybody should be listening to that if you want to get into it. Like I cold emailed or DM'd Stephen Ellis. I was like, how the heck do I get in this? And he's like, oh, give me like 4 paragraphs of just advice and tips. So the hockey community is really nice. It's very close knit. Like I met you at the draft and I was like, wow, this is Jonny Laz. And you're like, dude, I love your stuff. I was like,
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also like just to credit you guys again, like I've preached now for like 2 years. Everyone talks about growing the game and growing the popularity, right? I think it starts with highlighting prospects. Like, again, I live in New York. A lot of my friends went to these like big colleges, like, Penn State, Michigan, like all these schools with big football programs and basketball programs. So when those guys are drafted into the NBA or NFL, all my friends like know who these kids are, where hockey doesn't have that popularity. So if a kid gets drafted out of Penn State, like now, hopefully now it's going to become a thing. But like 5 years ago, no one knew who the hell they were. Like no one knows who their first round 20th overall pick is, like, because those guys aren't highlighted throughout the year nearly as much as the other sports are. And that's where people like you guys who really study the prospects and like actually get in depth and talk about it and know what you're talking about helps everyone understand and like be familiar with these guys when they're drafted. I think that's so important that the college guys, the junior guys are highlighted as much as the stars in the NHL are, because literally 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, Macklin Celebrini was playing the USHL. Like insane, so it's awesome, seriously.
And Adam Fantilli before him, they both played for the Steel. And you have like, I guess, shows now like Empty Netters Pod that are doing their college hockey, which is really awesome for the game, as well as Game Notes and Merles and Colby Armstrong. Those guys are like getting into college hockey, which is helping it grow. Like Biz too. Like the entire hockey media sphere is growing incredibly rapidly. And you have your show with Kobe Cohen, and I wanted to ask like a couple of your favorite moments that you've had with him, and just kind of like talks that you've had or moments that you've had in your career that you're like, wow, this is really happening.
Yeah, well, to kind of go what I was talking about before, the way I met Colby was through a LinkedIn message. I just reached out to him. I loved what he was doing in his career. I thought I wanted to build a similar path for myself, and he sent me his email on LinkedIn. We spoke on the phone and kind of formed this friendship. And for me to now do a show with him, it's kind of like a full circle thing. But I mean, we've had so many good moments. Like we tell this story all the time. This like actually wasn't really necessarily on the show, but we've made it like a thing on the show. We were out in Vegas at the draft in Vegas, out to dinner, and we saw Billy Guerin and Chris Kelleher. And we walked up to them, like I introduced myself to them, and Chris Kelleher was like, I know your name. Like, how do I know your name? And I was like, I have no idea how you know who I am. And he's like the assistant GM of the Wild. And he's like, oh, yeah, you went on a radio show for the Wild and called us the Minnesota Wild. I was like, oh, shit. Like, you heard that? Like fuck. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, my face turned bright red. I was like, oh, God, like the assistant GM hates me. Like, this is terrible. But like, he's such a cool guy. And like, now we become friends, and it's become like an ongoing joke. So like the thought of, if you told me that 5 years ago, I'd have an inside joke with an assistant GM in the NHL, I'd be like, whatever. But, I love that stuff. And honestly, like I'm a guy who like loves to make fun of people, get made fun of. And when people that I don't know come on our show and like make fun of me with Colby, like I love that. It just makes me feel like I'm friends with them. Right. So, we've had James Van Riemsdyk and like Kyle Davidson didn't necessarily make fun of me, but like having a GM on that, like, I feel like I can like now go up to and have a conversation with. Like I met him at the Winter Classic last year. Like that's so cool. And having Patty Maroon on every week last year, like there's just so many things that I didn't think were possible that have come to life with our show. And it's just awesome.
I met Kyle Davidson at the Curvers Prospect Showcase, and it was like in the elevator, and I didn't really say hi or anything, but some woman was like next to us, and she's like, can you press 2? And I accidentally pressed 3, so that was my first like, and she was just like, I needed to go to 2, and I was like in my head like cracking up. Like it was like, so I couldn't not laugh at it because I was just like staring at Kyle Davidson like, oh my God, that just happened. And and my buddy was wearing an Alex DeBrincat jersey, and they were like, you need a new jersey. I was like, that's awesome. But
a Red Wings one?
No, Blackhawks. Black. Yeah. But it was really interesting because like these guys are so human, but you think of them as like on this pedestal. So very cool. My last like question that I wanted to ask you was, what is one thing that fans and media don't know about you that your like peers and colleagues do?
Wow, I've never been asked that before. One thing about me that fans don't know about me that peers and colleagues do. I'm pretty much an open book. I feel like I don't hide much. I got made fun of for drinking a Shirley Temple out of a can the other night, but that's but I posted that. I guess maybe like you know what? I love Broadway shows. I don't know if that's something that people know. Big music. I love musicals. Big musical guy. I actually watched Love Actually for the first time recently. I don't know. It's not a musical, but like I'm a big sucker for that stuff. I grew up with an older sister, so like I've always seen like the that kind of stuff. So I guess that could be something. I'm going to a Maroon 5 concert tomorrow. That'd be cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's all I can really think of right now. I feel like I live pretty openly. I don't know.
You brought up the Dirty Shirley's, and that reminded me of
Not dirty, just regular Shirley.
Regular Shirley.
Yeah, no alcohol.
So everybody was ordering old fashions at the draft, and I ordered
Tell
a
me
Dirty Shirley.
You ordered a Shirley Temple at the draft, dude. Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like me, Stephen Ellis, like Shang, the two Sirius XM guys, and I was just Ezra, the broadcaster of Muskegon.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just like they were making fun of me the entire time about
as they should
call me Dirty Shirley or whatever, and I was just cracking up. Like they told me to order whatever I wanted, so I did, and that was the wrong choice.
I mean, if you're getting that, you're getting made fun of for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I asked for a pina colada at first, but they didn't know.
Have you seen the TikToks? It's like a Jack guy like going to the bar and like saying black coffee, but like putting a post-it down saying like, give me like a whipped cream, like whatever, mochaccino. It's a funny little bit. That,
no, I've not seen that, but that's actually me. I don't know. I got to do more push-ups or something. Maybe they won't make fun of me as much, but
that's good stuff. Hey, listen, you know what? I think in this industry, you got to be able to make fun of yourself. And, I think I got no shame. I think that's a good thing, right? Like a lot of people, I think, take themselves too seriously, and it's always more fun when kind of just lighthearted fun, right?
Yeah, just be yourself, right? That's how it works. I don't know. I wanted to ask you about Noah Laba. Like, what do you kind of make of him this season? And he kind of came out of nowhere, it seemed like.
Yeah, his skating is incredible. That's the one thing I think people notice. Like, and that was the one thing that stood out in training camp. Like his physical build, I guess he looked NHL ready, and I think he's still learning the game. Like, a big thing with him has been turning the puck over in the neutral zone a lot. So I think simplifying a little bit when he has the puck on his stick is something he'll continue to learn. But this is a 4th-round pick, right, who played 3 years in college, played a little bit in the AHL last year, and made the team out of camp. Like, that doesn't really happen often. Granted, there was a hole for him to fit or plug, but, I've talked to him like once or twice, haven't gotten to know him super well yet, but he seems like a really good kid, very wholesome, and he works his balls off. So I'm a big fan of Noah Laba. I think his ceiling is certainly high, while at the same time, I do think he's a perfect, like, third-line guy. I don't see him ever really being a first-line center in the NHL, just because like the skill is somewhat there, but I don't know if he'll ever, like being a first-line center in the NHL, you got to be like elite. So sorry, I was like holding in a burp there. I think, he'll be fine.
And what are your thoughts on Gabe Perreault? And I know that he had a little bit of NHL time, but he has 10 points in 10 games in the AHL.
Yeah, I mean, for Gabe, the few games he played 3 games, I think, so far this year. He showed some flashes, didn't necessarily like stand out every shift he was out there. Like there were shifts, he kind of went a little invisible. But like, again, like you're putting a kid so high in a pedestal for being called up after a few games. Like it's kind of impossible to meet those expectations. So it's hard. I don't think I didn't like the fact that he got sent down after the team won 3 straight games and they started putting pucks in the net. So I don't know if he'll be down there long. I feel like the Rangers still need more balance with their lines. Like I think Will Cooley's way more effective on the third line than he is up on the first line. I think it makes your team stronger having Cooley down there. So I wonder what they'll do with Gabe in that regard. But he wasn't like exceptionally good. He wasn't noticeably bad. He was just kind of like, I think everyone wanted to see a little bit more from him. But I'm very high on Gabe. Like I think his hockey IQ is what separates him. Like I watched him play a ton of BC, and he's always a guy thinking the game one step ahead. So once he adjusts to the speed a little bit and gets a little faster, I think he's going to be, quite the player.
Can I ask you about Dylan Garand? Do you know much about him?
Nope, you cannot. Nope. You're not allowed.
Okay.
Okay. Right. You can. I mean, again, I don't like watch Hartford games. I keep. Yeah. Okay. I just don't have time. Like I keep track with stats and stuff. I'm checking the AHL website and whatnot because I have buddies in the league too, so I always want to see how they're doing. But I can tell you this: like Garand in the preseason, like he struggled when he was here in the preseason. Mm-hmm. And I know that's your buddy, so I don't want to say anything like bad about him, but. Yeah, I think once Jonathan Quick does hang him up, which doesn't look like he will anytime soon with how good he's been, Garand will be that next guy to come in and back up Shesterkin. But, like, it's also tough, right? Igor just signed that fat deal. Like, is there really an opportunity for Garand to be a number one guy here? Probably not. So I don't know what he said in that regard, but do you want to tell me about him?
You know what? Yeah, like
Yeah.
you know, he I got to know him quite well, obviously from being with Kamloops and stuff. And man, like he's extremely like when he was in the WHL, he was extremely poised, like just not one to like you wouldn't see him like flutter around and sprawl around. He was very calm, very confident in how he would play the game, how he'd play the puck, make certain saves, like just a very calm goaltender. But I feel like as he kind of got into the AHL, and maybe they rushed him a little bit because like the plan was he was supposed to come back to Kamloops for the Memorial Cup, but then he ended up sticking around with Hartford. And I just wonder if that maybe kind of, anchored him a little bit because he was the CHL goaltender of the year, the year before, and he was the WHL goalie of the year. So I just kind of wondered if they rushed him a little bit, but he has a pretty, he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. And I think that as long as he can kind of keep it up, I think he's got what it takes to be a fringe starter and backup with New York. It's just, there's no room right now. That's the only thing.
Mm-hmm. I haven't met him really either, so I can't speak to him, as a guy, but from everything I hear from you, seems like a great dude. So I'm excited to meet him when he gets his next call up.
And from a Rangers fan, what do you think of Lafreniere?
Oh, we're doing this. You know what? What exactly are you asking?
Well, I'm asking just based on like his potential, just what you think of him as a player.
Okay. I think he's been this year. He's been a little too much of a passenger. I think he's shown spurts of being able to like be I guess people love the term play driver, right? Like you saw it 2 years ago. I really have a lot of faith in him. It's just not consistent. He needs to get a little meaner. When he's playing mean and angry, like he's effective. Like there's nights where he has pop in his step and he could be the best player on the ice, but that's rare. And I think you need to find more consistency with him. That said, like for people that are like calling him a bust, like give me a break, man. Like he's still an impactful NHL player. And being a 50-point guy, if he's a consistent 50-point guy, yeah, it's disappointing and underwhelming, but it's not nothing, So I don't know. Like he's 24, still has a long career ahead of him. He just hit the 400 game mark, and yeah, it hasn't lived up to a first overall pick. But I was just talking about this in the Tri-State show with Arthur Staple and Mike Rupp. Like he's had 4 different coaches in his 6 years in the NHL. Like he's hearing a lot of different things from a lot of different people. And he started out playing third line, fourth line, because he had Kreider and Panarin ahead of him on his natural left side. Like, it's not like he was handed anything. So I think it's easy to look at the Rangers' struggles and to look at his point total and be like, not good enough. But, man, like, I've seen him be impactful in big moments. Like the 2022 run, the kid line was big. Him, Heedle, and Kako, they were a big part of that run. 2024, he was the best forward in that run. It's just too inconsistent. But I will fucking die on the hill that he's a 100-point player happily. God, I hope that day comes once. I'll be so happy. That's all I want. I want Lafreniere to get 100 points more than I want the Rangers to win the cup. I'm kidding. If you clip that, I'll kill you. I'm kidding. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
That's the only thing we'll clip.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. But I am a big fan of Lafreniere. I was during his draft here as well. I know Jack Hughes had a rough time in his rookie year, so Lafreniere got a lot more hype, but he was very good in my opinion and what he did. So it's kind of tough to see him not play well, but he's so young that I think that he can easily get to be a point per game player with the right line mates and just kind of gain that chemistry. The last question that I have is Olympics based. Colton, I don't know if you have more questions that you want to save this for the last, segment, but like I think that the Olympics is such a hot topic with Bedard and Celebrini kind of being at the top of all point production, as well as a guy like Frank Nazar versus Patrick Kane or whatever it is. But just like both of those rosters, can you kind of talk about Connor Bedard versus Celebrini for the Olympics, and should both of them make it to the team?
I think if you're taking one right now, it's Celebrini over Bedard, just because I think Celebrini can impact the game in any style. Like if you need him to play a more defensive role, maybe like a shutdown role, I think he could do that. Where Bedard, I don't think you've seen enough of that yet. Like, I'm not saying that Bedard isn't a competitor, but Macklin just has that different hunger, right? Like he's a bulldog, and not everyone has that instilled in them. And again, like I don't want to discredit everything Bedard's done, but Macklin's just like different, right? Like the work ethic just seems different. And I think it's obviously going to be hard to take both of them, even if you take one of them, but they're both making very strong cases for themselves, I would think. But right now it's just hard for me to pick Bedard over Macklin, just with the, the complete player aspect. I think, it's honestly tough. Like I was going to say, I think Bedard's maybe like, if you put Bedard with better players, does he become a better scorer versus if you put Macklin with better players, is he a better scorer? Like I think Bedard would benefit more with better players than Macklin would, where Macklin could actually get more out of other players, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's tough. Like building that roster is going to be insanely hard. I'm not jealous of anyone who has to put together an Olympic roster.
Yeah, I think to your point, like if you put Bedard on the wing and give him a center that is more defensive, so that allows him to use his advantages and strengths more as his offense, so he doesn't have to worry about defense, it would help him more. But Celebrini has this like fourth line mentality, and he's a superstar. Like you can't learn that. You can't train that in practice.
No, definitely not.
That's everything, right? Yeah, I think so. I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all you guys got? Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. All right, Jonny. Thank you for joining us today, dude. Yeah. Much appreciated. What do you got? You have anything fun coming up?
Well, thank you, Colton. Thank you, Anthony. Do you go by your name on here on or no?
Yeah, that's fun.
All right, I don't want to out you on the name. I have anything fun coming up. The Winter Classic is coming up. That's like a month from now. That'd be fun in Florida. Yeah, it's probably,
are you doing coverage?
Yes, I don't know to what aspect yet. Probably like this typical stuff I do for the Rangers, or for Daily Faceoff through the Rangers. But yeah, I think the Winter Classic stuff usually comes together. Like, hopefully I had to skate on the ice. Like I've done that the past couple of years. That was super cool. But yeah, that'd be pretty sweet to be down in Florida for New Year's in the Winter Classic, and hopefully the Rangers are playing pretty good.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty, awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.